New this morning, Nebraska Senator Pete Ricketts is commenting on the partial government shutdown.
That's right. He says he hopes current negotiations are successful. Unlike the record 43-day shutdown last fall, this one only affects agencies under the DHS umbrella. Democrats oppose funding DHS without reforms to ICE and Border Patrol. Ricketts notes his Republican colleagues plan to compromise on security measures.
There are things we agree on, like the body cameras for the ICE agents. I think there's things we can do with regard to identifying folks who are wearing face masks, for example, that sort of thing. But I also think there's some things that just are not going to work, like we do administrative orders to be able to arrest people who are in the country illegally. That needs to continue.
Well, he says the issue needs to be settled as soon as possible so Congress can continue to work on the rest of the federal budget. Lawmakers are on recess this week.